finish a train of thought. A couple trains of thoughts. One of which escapes me at the moment. But there's a couple of them. One is the hypothetical question of how little power does a motorcycle really need to be acceptable as a motorcycle? Why is it that 30 horsepower doesn't manifest itself more assertively than the Kawi 300 does? I mean, I was really just surprised at how slow it was. I knew it would be slow. I didn't think it would be that slow. I mean, I knew the numbers sounded like mopedish, but it's still 30 horsepower. Honestly, I figured that in the long run, logically, 30 horsepower, 90 miles per gallon, 60 miles per gallon, 100 miles per hour, these numbers indicating what should be an acceptable level of performance. But they don't, because of the dilemma, and I think the oxymoron of a 100-mile-an-hour motorcycle being fast enough to be considered a motorcycle. Much less having somebody look at you and say, it's faster than most of the cars on the road. And it really does get to that fundamental issue of people misunderstanding what horsepower is all about. And missing the larger picture of 0 to 60 time, even quarter mile time. On top of what I think is the larger issue than missing what weight represents in a motorcycle, what it does not represent. Okay. And again, all of this is coming out of the fact that I know the numbers. I've been riding for years. I've ridden a lot of different bikes, and people still were able to convince me that it might be okay, that it might even be acceptable as a motorcycle. That it had 30 horsepower, it still weighed 300 pounds, 350 pounds, 375 pounds, 30 peak horsepower at 12,000 RPMs, and they didn't even have a chance to convince me that it might be an acceptable performer. It's because I had an open mind, not because I wasn't on top of the physics. I knew the physics. I know enough about bikes to know what that means. But still, knowing that all that somebody really needs in a motorcycle, and having an open mind, I was technically open to the possibility that it might actually be okay for a street bike. What I came away with was much more of a understanding of what so-called instructors, so-called newbies, think about what's acceptable in performance for a street bike, and what so-called instructors and so-called newbies want as a beginner's bike, as a quote-unquote first bike. I begin to see the gulf between the average motorcyclist and the average newbie and the average instructor. And I begin to realize that it makes sense when you start talking about people wanting to ride motorcycles but being afraid of wrecking them or having to pick them up. That's where I lost my... Having to pick them up or flipping them, but still wanting to be perceived as masters of two-wheeled, high-performance two-wheeled vehicles. Look, there's a B-47. Something like that. not that big, does it? Like Harley riders or sport bike, or sorry, I should say cruisers who want to look like Harley riders, but don't want to be in a gang, don't want to ride leathers, don't want to wear a bandana or ride without a helmet, don't want to get in fights, don't want to drink hard. Let me tell you something, buddy. You see a guy wearing leathers, weighs about 250, 300 pounds. You're not going to look at his motorcycle and say, wow, that really impresses me. That's what impresses me about this guy. His bike. You gotta look at the guy and say that's what impresses you, because if anything, most people are not gonna fuck with the guy 250, 275 pounds biker dude, okay? They're just not gonna fuck with him, whether he's a short biker dude, a big biker dude, a small biker dude, a thin biker dude, or a thick biker dude, a big heavy biker dude. You're not gonna fuck around with a biker dude because you don't know what the fuck that guy is gonna do in terms of a knife, a gun, a pipe, whatever, okay?